Welcome to the Chicago Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt Cooper, talking everything Chicago sports. And today we're going to talk about the White Sox. The White Sox may have something with Shane Smith and Mike Clevinger. Are they wasting their time with him? So a little bit of the good, a little bit of the bad. And I feel like anytime we bring up the White Sox, it's always about something in being bad. Let's face it, they haven't been very good. Last year, losing over 120 games, and this year too. But there's some positives coming out so far. So we're going to get into that, kind of talk about Shane Smith and the career he's had so far. It's interesting where he's come up from, how the Sox were able to get him, and some of the positives that I've seen from him, some of the takeaways from the first couple of games that I really like, and that really gets me excited when we talk about the White Sox in the future. But before we get into that, like and subscribe on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, as we talk everything Chicago sports, whether it's about the White Sox or the Bears as we get ready for the draft and the Bulls, everything Chicago related. So you can like and subscribe there. Those notifications will pop up on your phone, and then you can share this video with anybody you know that's a diehard Chicago sports fan, because we're all friends around here. We love talking Chicago sports, and that is why we are out here today. And we're going to talk a little bit now about Shane Smith. And how about that so far? How about what he has been able to do? And it's pretty cool on how he has been, how this has all been able to come about with the White Sox, because he was the first round selection of the Rule 5 draft. And that happened because originally he was an undrafted free agent with the Brewers. An undrafted free agent because he had Tommy John surgery too. He had Tommy John surgery back in 2021. And then he was an undrafted free agent, but really stood out for the Brewers because he was the minor league pitcher of the month when he pitched for Biloxi, and then he was with the Nashville Sounds a little bit last year before coming to the White Sox. And we hear a lot about the White Sox and who they are going to bring up and who we're kind of looking at in Birmingham right now. But I'll tell you this, Shane Smith was definitely not on my bingo card. Shane Smith was not there until the start of the season, until it was announced that he was going to be in the opening day rotation, and not opening day, but to start the season in the starting rotation. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I think as just a White Sox fan right now, we're looking for any positive and anything that we could take going into the future. So there's a couple of things that have stood out with me. So the first game against the Twins, where I'll be honest with you, I didn't know much about him, but he pitched 5 really good innings that day. And I'm not going to say, okay, I got to be careful how I say this here, because I'm coming to comparing him with the impact. It had kind of the Chris Sale impact. When I first watched Chris Sale pitch for the White Sox, that's the kind of impact that I felt when I was watching Shane. Now, I'm not comparing their careers. Chris Sale has had a very good career, very good career. Winning the World Series, going to Boston. Now he's pitching in Atlanta. Of course, he was with us for so many years, and he's been great. So I'm not comparing the careers. I'm just comparing the impact. I'm just telling you how I felt when I first watched Chris Sale, and I'm kind of doing it with him. Now, in that first game, if you remember, too, he kind of ran out of gas a little bit. It was 5 2/3, so we went into the 6th inning, and I'm like, man, are we really going to get 6 innings out of this guy? And you could tell he was just starting to lose it a little bit. He's starting to pitch out of the strike zone. I believe it was like 6 or 7 balls to 1 strike, and you could just feel like he was just losing that gas a little bit, which can happen with a young pitcher as well. But walking away with that game, I'm like, whoa, okay, let's see how it goes for a second start. This is where I started becoming more like, okay, I like what I see here, because the second game against Cleveland, that was 6 shutout innings, okay? And he's got a couple of pitches. So he's got that four-seamer fastball. He's got 4 pitches, but the 2 that he really uses is the four-seamer and the changeup. Now, I want to get into this changeup because there isn't a bat with Stephen Kwan, who's on the Guardians, and he's a very good baseball player. He kills the White Sox all the time. You always hear his name when you think of the Guardians. You hear Ramirez and you hear Kwan. But he pitched against him, and he used that changeup. It was only like 89 miles an hour. I was reading from MLB.com. They were kind of breaking it down a little bit on his pitching selection, but it was an 89-mile-an-hour changeup. And he got Kwan, and I was like, whoa, it's not very often you see Kwan, you get a guy like that out. And then I was reading that he went on and threw 22 times that changeup. He used it 22 times with 4 different whiffs. And I noticed that too. When you're watching that game, you could see how effective that changeup was. That changeup, with that type of command that he had that day, is why I'm saying that type of impact, I kind of compare it to the Chris Sale impact when I first started watching him, because you see how filthy it looked. On top of that, his fastball. When he started off that game, his fastball was at 96 miles an hour. Now it kind of diminished, and this is what I liked. This is what I liked, and this is why I think players like him have potential. His fastball started off at 96 miles an hour, but he started wearing down just a little bit. And by the 6th inning, it dropped down to 92. And he knew that. He knew that. He was talking about it. And that's when he said, I had to try to find that way to make those outs. So you try to find those effective ways to find the zone, to find ways that I can get out of that inning knowing that this could be it. And he did. And that made it 6 shutout innings. So his command looked great. His presence looked great. Everything about him in those first 2 games, you take away and I'm like, do we have something here? Now, I'll say this. He's an unfinished product. And the crazy thing is, as good as that changeup is, I think it can get better throughout the season here. So I'm excited to watch the next couple of starts to see where that goes. There's going to be the ups and downs. Listen, this is not a good team. This is not a very good team. The offense so far has not been good. The bullpen's been really bad. And we have some starting pitching that I think we could look forward to. Now, I'm talking about the unfinished product is his changeup, his fastball, and how he's going to use that. He also has a slider and a curveball that he'll go to as well, and how he's going to mix them in. And what I do like is Ethan Katz is a pitching coach, and he's done a very good job developing pitchers here over the last couple of years. So we're excited to see where this goes with Shane Smith. His story's cool to see the start so far. And do we have something here when some of the younger guys get brought up? That now brings me to Mike Clevinger. Why is Mike Clevinger on this team? And you can go on X and you can see all the reaction on Mike Clevinger. It always makes me laugh. Well, listen, you can go on X at any time and you're going to see, I can go out and put a tweet. I still call them tweets. I could go out there and say, hey, I hope you guys have a great day today. Have a great weekend. And somebody would come back and say, I can't believe he said he's going to have a great weekend. I'm going to have a terrible weekend. That's just how X can be sometimes. Why is Mike Clevinger on this team? He did sign a minor league deal. So if you remember last year, he only had 4 starts last year. He got hurt. He had that right elbow inflammation. I believe it was back in May, and ended up being a neck injury. So he had to have a disc replacement surgery. So he was out he was out the whole year. He only had 4 starts. So they bring him back on a non-roster invite into spring training, saying that, hey, you can go into the bullpen. Maybe you'll be in consideration to be the closer. All of that. Well, so far, he's been in consideration for the closer. And if you remember in the Guardians game, he ended up walking in and it just was not very good. So what is it going to be here? What's the end game here with Mike Clevinger? And here's what I'm thinking. And this is, as a White Sox fan, this is what we've got to be watching for this year, guys. Guys like Mike Clevinger, guys like Mike Tauchman, Austin Slater, Martin Perez, who is off to a really good start so far in the rotation. These type of guys, you can't just have all AAA guys on this team. We know what this team is. We know what they're trying to do, but you can't just mix every AAA, AA player. You have to have some major league players with experience on this team as well. That's why they went out and got some veterans like that. We want these guys to perform so we can flip them at the deadline. And it's kind of comparable to what happened last year with Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham. They had good years. We ended up trading them. We'll wait to see how those trades work out. That's what we're cheering on right now. Do I think Mike Clevinger, is that going to happen? Are we going to get anything for him by the summertime? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually released at some point. I guess it depends how he goes and how he takes it. And maybe he develops into a better potential closer or reliever in the bullpen. That's what we got to be cheering for. There's a lot of people that don't like Mike Clevinger. Totally understand everything. I understand where you're coming from. Why is this guy on the team and everything? But if we want to continue to build this team and see what direction they're going in, that's what we gotta aim for here, guys. That's what I'm aiming for. I'm hoping he goes out there and has very effective innings, whether it's as a closer or a reliever. So by the time June comes around or July, these guys can be flipped. And especially for pitching, I feel like with the trade deadline, the earlier teams are starting to fire maybe just a little bit earlier. And that could certainly happen here. So I'm hoping for that. And top of that, I'm hoping for our guys like Shane Smith in our starting rotation to continue. Because let's face it, guys, as a diehard White Sox fan and other White Sox fans out there, it's the first couple of weeks has been a very tough watch. I feel like they're more competitive. I feel like Will Venable, you could see the difference already compared to what we've had last year, Pedro Grifol. I feel like his energy, the former player in him, I like his competitive edge to him. I like the coaching staff that we have here. We just don't have the talent. That's the problem. We just don't have the talent right now. And that's going to be the process here of these guys coming up this year. And we hope that the guys coming up from Charlotte, we hope the guys that are coming up from Birmingham, whether they go to Charlotte, whether they come here to be on the big league clubs, that's what we're looking for this year, guys. On top of some of these veterans, like I just said, that we signed here in the offseason. And we want to hope that Luis Robert hits. We want to hope that Andrew Vaughn eventually hits. So these are the type of guys that we can flip and continue to build as we get ready here for the future. And that's what I'm hoping for as a White Sox fan. So there's always hope. I'm the positive. I'm always looking for the positive. We don't want to always go to the negative. There's going to be some positive aspects to this. We just got to keep our fingers crossed and hopes that it happens. So Thank you guys so much for watching. We'd love to know your opinion too. What do you think of Shane Smith so far? What's your opinion on Mike Clevinger? You guys can leave that in the comments. You could like this video, you can leave it in the comments, and then share this video with your other fellow White Sox friends. And we can continue to talk about White Sox. And hopefully, the next time we jump back on here, we can talk about another young stud that's come up. We can talk about another young stud that has had a good start to the season, because that is what we're looking for here with the Chicago White Sox. So thank you all so much for watching the Chicago Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Cooper, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.